Great news, we are talking about subwoofers, mixers, how to hook them up so this way you get the most out of it. We've got two subs, and that's what we're talking about. If you've got two subs, you'd like to stack them up, try and figure out why stack them up. What am I going to get better out of it? How about if I said instead of having one sub for sound or two subs for sound, if you stack them, set them up right, you can have 2.5 subs for the price of 2. Yes. So let's look at the mixer, see how we made this all happen, and see how you can do it at home or at your next gig. So here we are having a look at our actual mixer, which we do have a microphone hooked up to it, and we have used our B3, our XLR direct connection for Bluetooth audio coming right off of our laptop. This is going to give us much better Bluetooth quality, plus it gives us the ability to hook it up directly into channels. So I have them right here, and you can tell it because I've got my levels up a bit, my gains are dialed in, my two XLRs. I haven't had to modify my bass and trebles or my mids at all. I do have my monitor set at 50%, and my pans are set to the far left and far right, giving me full stereo sound. Way over here in channel number 1 is where you're going to find my microphone. You'll notice that I turned up the monitor a bit. I'm going to turn this down because I'm going to demonstrate to you what the advantage or disadvantages are by having this. Gain controls are already pre-set up. I'm using the EWD series from Sennheiser. Beautiful wireless microphone stuff. This is what today's video is going to be all about. Hello, 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 hello. Hello there. Here we are, all set, ready to go. Okay. Now the reason why we're also talking about a microphone in this video today is so this way you can understand how you can take advantage of having some of your bass sent through a monitor if you're not planning to use that monitor for anything else, but have your bass sent through that. Now again, I'm going to have one subwoofer, my lower sub, controlled through the actual speaker. So I'm taking advantage of what's available to me on my main speakers, which happens to be a mixed out or subwoofer output. In this case, I have it set up for a subwoofer output, linked and gain controlled from the speaker to my lower sub. My upper sub is then going to be part of my monitor output, allowing me to dial it in and dial it out, no problem. Now there's two ways I can control bass on my actual microphone. If I don't want that extra bass, I can use a feature on the mixer called high pass filter, which eliminates the 80 hertz frequency and lower. That'll get it off everything, but I can also choose to dial it in and out via the monitor input. So this way I have some of it incorporated in the one sub, but I only have the rest of it if I choose by turning up that monitor option. That's how we get all the bass we want out of everything. So again, if we want to increase an extra bass for the mic or anything else, I'm going to use the monitor option on the actual mixer. So let's see how that works. Turn the microphone on, say hello, microphone. Hello, Robin. Turn this up a bit so you have an idea of what's going on. I know I don't have all the extra mics on, but it does give you a bit of an idea of what's going on in the background. If I come along and turn up the extra monitor right here, you'll notice the bass is going to increase on there. Now, if I want to get rid of all that extra bass, I hit this button right here, and it's going to cut off the bass at 80 hertz. That's one way of doing it. If I leave it on, I can have the bass on the lower sub, because that's hooked up through the V4415s, and I control the second subwoofer right from here. Now again, that's just an easy way to make the whole thing work when it comes to adding bass onto your mic. Now on your music side of things, it makes a dramatic difference. We look on the music side, our music is engineered with bass in it. If you're playing EDM, anything like that, I'm using Artlist. I picked a list of EDM songs that really work well with that extra bass. As a DJ, you're going to have a whole list of music that you know about that needs that bass. If you don't have subwoofers and you just have line arrays, that's not the same. Adding subs gives you a control and a lower frequency that you didn't have before, and it'll increase the value of your speakers that you have above by allowing you to allow those speakers to do their job of being a bass module and mids and highs. We're not asking it to do any additional work or heavy lifting that would basically suck up all the additional power and get you into your limit lights real fast. Better way to go. A little bit more work, but your clients will magically appreciate it with never saying anything. They'll just like, oh, you guys were great. That was an awesome show. That was so nice, amazing. That's the difference between having subs and not having subs. So let's see and try out how we got this all to work. So again, my music coming from my laptop is right here. The gains had to be set up so this way I wasn't pushing the limiter, the clip lights, and my levels were adjusted to balance off my microphone. Now all I need to do is slide the actual slider here, our main out, to bring in and out the music. Now if I want to add more bass than a standard one subwoofer setup, I would then use the monitor dial right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn everything on and give it a listen. So I've just added 3 more microphones to the lineup. That's going to be 2 ribbon microphones for the main speakers, and I've also added a hyperdynamic microphone in front of the subwoofers off to the side, this way just to give it a little extra. Now all that's going to helpfully balance this out a little bit so you get a better idea of when there's extra bass being introduced or not. And the idea is for you to get the experience of how the dials interact and just make that all happen for you. Now again, it just gives you more control, and the more control you have, the better your show is going to be at the end of the day, and the happier your guests are going to be. So again, extra bass will come from here. Turn that down. Our standard bass package is right here. So if I turn off that second subwoofer, that's just the music itself. So I physically turn the volume down on the second subwoofer. Now the top subwoofer is here. Add that in here. So that's just one sub. Now if I balance that off with the original space, and there you go. So now both subs are on. I can adjust this one from here without having to go anywhere. The first subwoofer is always going to be adjusted with the master volume, making everything as easy as possible, regardless what you play. So here we go. It's a good time to bring in that extra bass. Now this is a real important thing here. We haven't normally increased the dB levels. The whole point is we get ourselves to around an 85 to 95 dB. What we're doing is we're playing around with that bass. So our main volume's up here, and we're moving the bass around, fitting it to the music we're playing, so this way we get the most out of it. So we're not trying to increase the volume level, because you keep doing that, you're just going to make people go deaf, and people are going to be unhappy and uncomfortable, and this isn't for me. You keep them in that sweet zone, and you keep bringing the bass in and out. Now you're really stimulating the crowd and making them very excited about what you're doing. That's what it's about. And if you're doing it for yourself, I mean, that's a great way to dial it in at any volume level. I can play my system at 65 to 70 dBs, which is very low, and I can bring in and out the bass to make it so this way I'm enjoying the music that I'm playing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you want to enjoy what you've got, you want to enjoy what you have, and you want your guests, your friends, your customers to enjoy it too. So regardless if this is in a bar, restaurant, or you're a DJ, or maybe this is just for a band setup, or it could be your rec room. That's okay. The more you have to make your life more entertainingly fun is what it's all about. Because you got to enjoy it, and it's got to sound good, and you don't always have to run out and buy a new sub. Maybe you just add a mixer so you can control that sub a little bit better.
I think that you should have it.
I think she knows what we're talking about. Maybe you should have it.
I think that you should have it. Okay.
So there you go. We've gone through a whole bunch of little things. It's not complicated, but I really wanted you to have an experience close up to what was going on. Now, the subwoofers were only set at 50%. The speakers were only set at 25%. Everything else was controlled by the mixer. The mixer did all the heavy lifting when it came to gain controlling everything. Again, as long as you're not pushing your limits before you're going into your levels at the bottom, you can easily then adjust everything coming out of the mixer and maximizing the volume out of your speaker without distortion and without punching the limits all the time. That's what this is all about. I can go back to any system, tweak it, and get more volume out of it, I guarantee, from just having a controller. That's what I'm saying. If I say anything at all, that's it. Also, remember, by stacking them, you're creating a bigger envelopment of sound. That bass has got a larger surface area to expand from. It's going to give you a bigger wave of energy. That's where you end up with 2.5 times the volume level as having 2 subs separated. Now remember, by separating them, you're going to create a tunnel effect down the middle of cancellation, which takes away from the subs. That's where you end up at only 1.5% of your subs. versus a full 2. And why is it when you bring it together, either vertically or horizontally, that you end up with 2.5? It's a perception of sound. It sounds tighter, it sounds fuller, it sounds richer, and it travels further. Is it really? If you put a dB meter, no. But because the way the sound is coupled together that way, it just comes across that way. Now, the other thing you may be worried about is that, Robin, you're playing around with the volume level, the gain level of that sub on top. That's not going to be in phase. In phase and gains are not the same thing. If I'm driving both speakers a sound of 55 hertz, regardless if this one's turned down a lot and this one's turned up a lot, there's still 55 hertz. If I dial this one in, it just increases that overall bubble of sound coming off it. That sound wave, that energy, the pressure that's coming off it increases with the increase of gain or decrease of gain, depending on if you're trying to make more or less bass. So the frequencies stay the same, just the overall gain level changes, and that's okay. Well, I hope this video earned a thumbs up, and I also hope that if you haven't subscribed, maybe this is a good time you try doing that. You get to find out about when I drop new videos. You also get to find out when we do lives, because there's lives coming up all the time. There's this plus the gear guys. All these things happen all the time.